everybody, and welcome back to Star Cub Review. Now, as promised, this is my second video for the night, and this one is on Quintessential Aussie TV shows that I recommend part 3. This one is a very long one in waiting. I've got a few video clips to show for some of the shows that I'm going to feature in tonight's one and talk about. And so these ones are some of the ones that I really recommend, as apart from part 1 and part 2. But some of these ones, like, I practically grew up with, and even into high school as well, and up until the end of high school. But these shows that are featured are some of the ones that I prominently remember in my childhood as well. So without further ado, before I get into that, thanks to everyone that is new to the channel, that is tuning in, picked this one to watch. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Drop me a like and a subscribe if you feel like it. No pressure. And to everyone that is returning and has been waiting for part 3, thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate the support. You know I do. It really does help out my channel. And yeah, all right, let's get into it. So tonight's ones I will feature some of the ones that I prominently remember, and really still get a really good laugh even after 20 odd years. Some of these ones are still fantastic to go back to, and I have to revisit a lot of them again, but some of them I still remember quite vividly in my head. Some of the sketches, some of the shows, you know, places that were featured in these shows, cast, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, the first one I'm going to feature on tonight's list, and one that is very highly critically acclaimed in Australia. It's probably one of the best Australian comedy sketch shows, because it literally took the piss out of everything. It took the piss out of Kylie Minogue. It took the piss out of, you know, international affairs. It took the piss out of TV shows like Dallas, Dynasty, Days of Our Lives. And also took the piss out of a lot of Australian politics, politicians, and prime ministers. So it's, some people, especially my American audience, won't understand some of the humor, but for all my Australian audience, and for any Australian audience that is on YouTube, will know exactly where I'm coming from, that this is quintessential sketch comedy at its best. Has some of the best comedy people in it, and it was produced by Steve Vizard, who was also an executive producer. So a lot of the main cast: Jane Turner, Gina Riley, Magnus Stefanski, Mark Downey, Michael Veitch, Peter Moon, Ellen Pentland, Steve Blackburn, Jeff Brooks, Ernie Dingo. The rubbery figure, there's a sketch in it that there's the rubbery figures. They're satirical puppets. Anyone from Australia will know who they are. But they were parodies of politicians and prime ministers. And also we have Jerry Connolly and Brian Dory. And Fast Forward was also succeeded by another show, 2 spin-off shows, Full Frontal and then Totally Full Frontal. Well, that had new cast members. the main cast members from Fast Forward all featured in Full Frontal in their sketches, but it was a completely different comedy sketch show. So, number of seasons for Fast Forward was 4. Number of episodes, 90. And it ran from 1989 to 1992. So, when I grew up watching it, I was already watching the reruns of the show. So, you know, what can I say? A little bit off, but I was watching the reruns of the show and I absolutely loved it. Grew up with it. It was absolutely fantastic. An hour of TV at its finest with the comedy, and I will fade myself out and let you watch the introduction to Full Frontal. I mean, not Full Frontal. Fast Forward, and I will be back in I will be back as soon as it finishes. All right, enjoy. Alright, I'm back. Now that was Fast Forward. Quintessential Australian TV show, sketch comedy at its finest. Now, my next one is going to be on another TV show. This one is unique. Once again, it's another Australian TV show that I remember, that I grew up with. And it had 4 seasons. Number of episodes, 78. And if I remember correctly, it was during the time I was in middle school, so grades 5, 6, and 7. Yeah, grades 5, 6, and 7. And I remember this quite vividly because it was an amazing show. It featured whales, a girl that has an affinity for water, and she can communicate with whales. It was called Ocean Girl, and it's known as Ocean Odyssey in the UK. It's an Australian science fiction TV series, and the lead star is Martina Godecki, and she plays Ocean Girl. She's the lead character, and it's set in the near future and focuses on an unusual girl named Neri, who lives alone on an island, and the friendship she develops with the inhabitants of an underwater research facility called the Orca, Oceanic Research Centre of Australia. And the show, it's all about the ecosystem, global warming, and it features a lot of deep ecological science fiction in it as well. And I just remember Neri swimming with the whales and all the adventures that she went on with the kids that she actually meets from the Orca. And there's all these parents that let their kids go in this drive a submarine and stuff like that, like the older kids in the show. And then they get up to all sorts of stuff on the island. They've got to solve planet issues and pollution and stuff like that. But it had a very deep story to it. I will bring up the opening credits to my left or to my right, either one. And this was the opening credits for Ocean Girl, and it was magnificently shot. it is a really, really good science fiction fantasy. Well, it has fantasy elements in it, but it's more science fiction. But that one was a really good one. And it also stars David Hoffman, Jeffrey Walker, Alex Pinder, Kerry Armstrong, Liz Birch, Tarini Mudala, Lauren Hewitt, Gregory Rose, Jacqueline Prince, and Nicholas Bell. And the composers for the music, Gary McDonald and Laurie Stone. And the show was created by Jonathan M. Schiff. So there were a lot of fantasy elements, there were a lot of adventure elements to it as well, but like I said, a lot of it, it really did focus on the planet, what you do to it, how to, climate change as well, even though climate change wasn't a huge thing till later on. It really did predict a lot of stuff that we would be facing in the years to come. So it was ahead of its time. And the main cast member, Mazina Gadecki, absolutely brilliant as Neri, absolutely brilliant. It was a fantastic show. So that's Ocean Girl, everybody. And the next one is another TV show that I watched pretty much sporadically after I would finish school. And I can't remember, this one ran from 2002 to 2005, had 3 seasons, and yes, this was during high school. So when I finished high school, I'd come home and I'd watch it. It was on the BBC. It was created by Tim O'Mara, and it was directed by Paul Wroblewski and produced by Andy Rawley. It was a TV show for kids, but it was a science fiction drama mystery, and it was called Jeopardy. Now, I will bring up the opening credits. I'll keep my mouth zipped until the opening credits is finished and see what everyone thinks afterwards. Okay, so you get the gist there. Now, this show was really, really weird, and I remember it had a lot of twists and turns in it, and it was very unique in how it was done. So the basic plot of this story is it's about 8 secondary school students and their teacher from Falkirk, Scotland, who travel to the Australian bush to look for UFOs. They are given camcorders to record any sightings, and the series makes extensive use of the found footage genre in my notes. And it's recorded by them, but it's not all they have camcorders and that, but it's an actual proper series that you go through all these mystery with these kids, and there's all this weird stuff happening in the bush, and I love how they use the Australian outback and the bush and the scenery and the noises and that to really give you that sense that anything could be waiting for you out in the bush. So it is one of those ones that it has its creepy moments in it as well, but it also had so many twists and turns that even with the found footage element, like they had the cameras with them and they record every, when they're going out, and they would record if they see any lights and stuff like that. But it wasn't just about that, and the whole UFO conspiracy theory. It adds so much more depth to it, because as the series goes on, they have these mysterious people that are after them that want to silence them and get their footage and stuff to cover up something way bigger than them. And I just remember the final episode of season 3 left you on an extremely big cliffhanger, and it never gets resolved. It just leaves you on like a really big cliffhanger. If I can remember, I think it was the final episode of season 3. I mean, it's been a very long time since I've seen it, but it absolutely had all those elements of mystery in it as well, with these kids, and you know, some of them would be jerks, some of them would be, you know, talk the talk, walk the walk type of thing. Like, yeah, I'm so tough, but then, you know, the first sight of a spider, or you know, the sign of a, you know, they hear a kookaburra or whatnot, they're like, oh, and it's like, it was a fantastic show. I have to give them credit. It was a very well written show, and I recommend it to anybody that wants to see this. It is actually really, really good for an Australian science fiction mystery drama that really gives you all the twists and turns in the Australian outback. Yeah, try and get your hands on it, because it's a good series. My next one is another TV show that aired in 1998, and it's got a lot of the same people from Fast Forward and Full Frontal, and it was called Something Stupid. Now, it was a short-lived Australian comedy sketch show, but it was so memorable to me while I was still in middle school, before high school, and some of the skits in it are actually from Kath and Kim. Now, these were sketches that they had done for Kath and Kim before Kath and Kim became a full-blown thing. They did little short sketches of the Kath and Kim characters that featured Kath, Kim, Sharon, and Kel. But before he became Kel, he was actually named Ned. So yeah, go figure on that one. And some of the other, how should I put it? Some of the other sketches included the Golden Boot Awards, Supermodel Calf, Annie Get Your AK-47, Crack of Dawn, which is a parody of breakfast news shows, the Putz Institute, which is a medical drama, which takes the mickey out of American medical dramas, which was quite funny, like the Putz Institute. Beijing, which is a Chinese variety show. Ruby Wax impersonations, the Golden World News. They had parodies of ER, the Potato Players of Burwood, and the general players for this one were Mark Downey, Gina Riley, Max Stebansky, Jane Turner, Glenn Robbins, Mark Neal, and Kevin Shesucks, among others as well. But it was short-lived. I think it was around for, I think, all of one season, from what I can remember. And it had the sketches in it were very funny for what it was. Like some of them, like today, some of them, you know, very PC. But you know what? I still revisit these shows. You know, everything being PC these days it's just like, oh, you know what? Growing up and watching all these sort of sketch shows that, you know, featured sketches that had, you know, where people would take the mickey out of Chinese people, black people, Indian people, all that sort of stuff. It was all in good jest. It was a comedy show, it was a sketch show, and, you know, God forbid, you know, American shows did the exact same friggin' thing. I think everyone complaining that shows back then were so PC now, and you can't do that, and it's like, oh, you know what? Who gives a flying hoof? Like, I grew up to appreciate these shows for what they are, for what they gave me in my childhood growing up, which was some really fucking funny jokes and a really good laugh and taking the piss out of just things that you know, Americans seem to make a big deal about, or other countries seem to make a big deal about. And we made a joke out of it, like everybody else. Americans do it, Chinese do it. You know, other countries take the mickey out of other countries. So we're no different. And hey, for what it is, I enjoyed it. And lastly, on my video, this one is a very beloved one. This one, I watched it from its conception, from when I went to middle school, all the way up until it finished in 2004, was my final year of high school. That's how old I am now. And it basically ran from when I went to when I first started middle school, all the way up until high school, and it was a TV show that I watched in the mornings religiously before going to school every day. Even if I had to go to school early, I would record it on a VCR and watch it after school. But every morning before school, I remember it started at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I got up, had breakfast, and would eat my breakfast on the couch or on the floor and watch. And this is a really good one. It's Cheez TV. Now, it was hosted by Ryan Lappin and Jade Gatt. And it started in 1995 and ended in 2004. And it was Cheez TV. And it had all the shows of my childhood growing up. It had Pokemon, Digimon, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z. Then it had Naruto. It had all sorts, but they were the main ones. It had Beyblade. It featured Biker Mice from Mars, Card Captors. It had Dungeons and Dragons on there, Earthworm Jim, Eek the Cat. One Piece was also on there, although I didn't watch One Piece back then. All the had Pokemon, heavily featured Pokemon, Digimon, Sailor Moon. Oh my God, Sailor Moon. Spider-Man, SpongeBob. It featured just a whole range of stuff, but they were the main ones me growing up. The Men in Black cartoon, anime cartoon series, which was a really good one. Mighty Max, which was another really good one. It had all the Pokemon series. It had all the Digimon series. It had Dragon Ball Z, heavily featured Dragon Ball Z as well, which was another really good one that I grew up with. So it featured a lot of shows, a lot of kids' cartoon TV series from my childhood that I really, really appreciate. The presenters of the show, Ryan and Jade, were absolutely phenomenal. They made Australian kids' childhoods so good growing up. They were excellent presenters. They'd do skits. They'd, interact with their TV viewers at home, like you wrote in. They'd do competitions. They'd pick a winner live on air, on the TV. And a little known fact, Cheez TV was the first Australian TV show to have an internet address in 1995. Go figure on that one. It's pretty big. For all the way back in 1995. I mean, gosh. But yes. And since then, it's been over 20 years now, and it then eventually became from 2005, it was replaced, it was Toasted TV. And I never really got into Toasted TV. I absolutely loved Cheez TV. Big shout out to Ryan Lappin and Jade Gatt, because in 2016 they launched the Cheez TV Facebook page with the help of a friend and podcaster, Brendan Dando. And it features full episodes of the original run of Cheez TV. And it's just like, oh my God, I cannot believe they pulled it off. So go on Facebook if you want to know what my childhood was like when I was in middle school all the way up until finishing high school. Get on Facebook, type in Cheez TV on Facebook, and watch some of the original run episodes, because very, very amazing TV show. And my childhood was one of the best growing up. And Cheez TV ran for 11 seasons with over 2,500 episodes. So, as you can imagine, Australian kids had it in the bag. And with that, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Now, I know this is a long one, but I really wanted to make this one special. And I know, I go on a little bit, but I really do like talking about this stuff. And this one has made me so happy talking about, because it has brought up so many memories with these TV shows. And with part 1 and part 2, it makes me really appreciate, where I come from, Australia, Western Australia in particular, from born and raised in Southern Cross and Perth. I really do, Australian kids really did have an amazing childhoods. I would no doubt say that, especially me, I had a really good childhood growing up. Cheez TV, other TV shows as well, that really did shape, basically, who I am as a person, as a whole. I just appreciate the fact that, we have, I had a good childhood. I honestly did have a good childhood. And with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I will sign off for tonight. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Drop me a like, drop me a thumbs up, even a comment. It really does help my channel. Subscribe to my channel. It really does help out. Let's get my subscribers above 206 with your help. Thank you so much, guys. I really, really appreciate it. I will see you soon with some new videos. Ciao.
Girls, it's May, and it's time for the June Women's Monthly. We preview the latest ludicrous, obscenely overpriced Paris fashions and ask, who in Australia can afford to wear this crap? And speaking of heartthrobs, what's that gorgeous ugly Dave Gray up to? Unemployed? Get a job. And Sophie Lee, is the skinny little bitch getting more publicity than me? So don't miss out. The Women's Monthly. Aren't you glad it doesn't happen once a week?